Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our fireside chat with Sheriff Mark Curran right here in Round Lake Beach Cultural and Civic Center. I'm Mayor Rich Hill with the Village of Round Lake Beach. And our guest tonight, as I said, is Sheriff Mark Curran. Sheriff Curran is a graduate of Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama, with a degree in business administration and a graduate from IIT Chicago Kent College of Law with a Juris and Doctorate in Law. He began his law enforcement career serving as an intern in Lake County State's Attorney's Office in 1988 and became an assistant Lake County State's Attorney in 1990. While serving as a senior felony prosecutor, Curran was recruited by Illinois Attorney General Jim Ryan. Sheriff Curran is a graduate of the Career Prosecutor Academy in Houston, Texas, and the Suburban Law Enforcement Police Academy in DuPage County, Illinois. Sheriff Curran also graduated from the Illinois Chiefs of Police First Time Chiefs Conference and the National Sheriff's Association First Time Sheriffs Conference. Sheriff Curran was also selected by the publication Super Lawyers as one of the top lawyers in the state of Illinois in 2006 and continues to serve on numerous boards at the local, state, and national levels. Since taking office in 2010, the sheriff implemented the school safety team during his first year in office and continues to be an integral component in safety and securing of our community schools through preparation, prevention, education, and communication. Prompted by an increase in opioid deaths amongst the Lake County youth, the Lake County Sheriff's Office is a member of the Lake County Opioid Initiative tasked with developing, implementing, evaluating, and sustaining a multi-strategy, countywide effort to prevent opioid abuse, addiction, overdose, and death. In July 2015, the Lake County Sheriff's Office announced the formation of the Lake County Gang Force, Lake County Gang Task Force, a law enforcement collaborative comprised of federal and local enforcement agencies to address the increased migration of gangs in Lake County. Please join me in welcoming Sheriff Mark Curran. So do you have to come flying in with lights and sirens tonight, or are you just kind of slide in under the radar?
Yeah, I don't, I'm sorry, Mayor, I don't activate them unless, there's a reason. Otherwise, let's put it this way, as Chief Hare could tell you, at our level, we get away with less, not more, than your average law enforcement official.
Very true. Sheriff, can you please describe the law enforcement functions the Sheriff's Office is responsible for in Lake County?
Well, the Sheriff's has a lot of statutory responsibilities. Primary amongst those is to keep the citizens safe, and that's found within the Illinois statutes, the Illinois compiled statutes. We have approximately 600 plus employees, over 600 employees. We're the central record keeper for much of the data in law enforcement in the county. We have a highway patrol division. Lake County, as y'all probably know, is a very large county. It's over 700,000 people, significantly over, 500 square miles, densely populated, and about a third of the county is unincorporated, meaning Round Lake Beach is an incorporated area, but there's areas right around here that are not incorporated, and people, they have a P.O. box, but they live in the county's jurisdiction. There's other areas that, smaller areas that don't have police departments, and they've contracted with us, Beach Park and Volo and Lake Barrington and North Barrington and several others. So we're out there at about 200 sworn out on the roads, approximately. We have an investigation division. You have your first responders, and oftentimes what they do is going to lead to an investigation. So we have a criminal investigations division. We have the courts. We're responsible for security and safety of the courts, and you all have one right over here in Round Lake Beach, and so we're there. We're in Waukegan, obviously, where the biggest courthouse is. We have the lakes, Lake Michigan we patrol to some extent, and the chain of lakes as well. So we're out there with boats in the summer. We work alongside of DNR, Department of Natural Resources. And one of our biggest functions, and probably the biggest number of employees, is the jail. Lake County, in one capacity or another, incarcerates approximately 1,000 people a day. So we have people that are either in the jail or they're in the work release facility immediately adjacent to the jail, or they're a much smaller number on electronic monitor. So it keeps you busy with all of that as well. So we also sit on the task forces, and we're the central depository as well for warrants in civil process. So for example, if you file a lawsuit, unless your attorney goes out and hires a private investigator or a private process server, chances are the sheriff will be serving those papers. A lot of different roles.
Thank you. Yes, it's a variety of things that you and services that you provide. Of all of the programs at the Lake County Sheriff's Office, which are you most proud of?
Well, personally, I'm proud of a lot of things we do. One of the things that I think we do really well is our jail in terms of programming. It's been featured by the 700 Club, has come in there and done feature stories on us. Moody Radio has been in there a significant amount. A lot of other publications have been in there to cover our jail, newspaper, radio, television, and they're in there and they're interested in what we're doing because our programming is really at the cutting edge, and we have so many people that come in and work with the inmates. A lot of it is faith-based, and that we believe that works very well. You could teach somebody a woodworking skill or a computer skill, and at that point you may have a criminal that now has another skill, woodworking or computers. But you don't have a conversion. You don't have somebody that realizes it's wrong to victimize people, that we're all connected, we have a shared humanity, we're responsible for each other in some way. And when you start planting those seeds, maybe they think differently about wanting to rob somebody or victimize them in some other capacity. At least that's the hope. And we've seen fruits of that in terms of reduced recidivism. We're doing very well. One of the things we're working now is with the gangs and the gang task force that we started up, and I think that's been really successful.
One of our residents in Round Lake Beach here, Ricky Bueno, has been ministering at your jail for some time now. He speaks very highly of the organization and the dealing with the inmates and trying to help them through tougher times, because he went through it himself. He used to be a gang member, got himself out of the gangs, cleaned himself up. He's married to some great kids, and now he's going out helping other kids that are leading the wrong path to get right on the right path, and he's done a great job. And if we get more people like Ricky Bueno out there to help you out, that'll be even better for you.
No, I agree, Mayor. Ricky's great, and his wife Melissa, and he has a credible story because he was involved in a gang, and you know, ultimately there was a change. Without being overly dramatic, if you will, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. The cynicism that you sometimes find in our society, or in law enforcement, it's very easy to be cynical, is that people don't change. He was a gangbanger, therefore he's a piece of whatever, and there's no hope and what have you, and he's always going to be doing that. That's not true. People change all the time. They walk away, and oftentimes the mistakes they made, they've learned from those. They realize how wrong it is. And sometimes they even feel that there's a repentance that needs to take place, an atonement. They need to do something to make right for all the wrong that they've done. And so we see people that have been down that wrong road, have changed, and are having a really positive influence in our society.
Speaking of positive influence, I know that you've launched an initiative in the schools, and that you're utilizing teen court in the schools that the sheriff's office is responsible for. Can you comment on the success of that in your schools?
Right, we've been involved in teen court for a long time. NICASA's been terrific, and Bruce Johnson, who was a former chief of Round Lake Park Police, who works with NICASA. But teen court has been around for a little bit, and that's where the students essentially are there along with an experienced attorney, and they make a recommendation as to what should transpire as far as discipline and what have you. and learning from the mistake. And I think it's really worked well because ultimately you need a corrective behavior, and that's what teen court offers. And also, that peer support and that peer recommendation, they're really connected. For example, with Ricky Bueno you brought up, I mean, he's got credibility in talking to people that are going down that road of street gangs because he knows, been there, done that, it doesn't work because boom, boom, boom. And so I think teen court is excellent for the same reasons. I mean, it's worked well. I know y'all are very involved also.
Yeah, it's a great program, and NICASA does a good job supporting the youth in the community. So, I know prior to you taking office, I'm not sure that the sheriff was as involved, and I know that you guys have upped your ante. In fact, they have and are a part of the advisory council now in teen court, and it's really worked out well.
Thank you.
As a municipality, how is it that we can get more involved and help with some of the programs that you've highlighted here, and what help are you looking for from the municipalities in Lake County to kind of further your programs?
Well, and I'm sure you'd support me on this one. We're talking to some residents a while back about just, there's gangs out there. So let me ask you, just to show of hands, does anybody see a drug problem? Yeah. So you couldn't go, y'all see it because, you're connected, you know what's going on. There's no high school in Lake County that doesn't have a drug problem, okay? Lake Forest, they got a worse drug problem than y'all do. Stevenson High School, it doesn't matter. They all have, everybody's got a drug problem. And so it's like, let's be real about it. And law enforcement, we're out there, but the eyes and the ears are the people that live there. So, when we talk about that shared humanity, that we're all responsible for each other, that was something that was, people bought into very much so, a generation or so ago, that, you looked out for each other. And we've tried to push that from a law enforcement perspectives. We have Neighborhood Watch, the sheriff does. Y'all have it in Round Lake Beach, I know as well. Chicago's got their COPS program, which is a variation on that. But the point is that y'all need to be watching, and you need to be listening, you need to be paying attention. And if you see too much traffic going up to a house, what the hell's going on? You know what I mean? Is that normal that somebody's got people coming and going all times of the day? No, that's not normal. So, the tendency is to, well, I'm not going to get involved. That's not going to work. That's not going to make for a safe community. And make no mistake about it, ultimately, all of the major narcotics, whether it's heroin, you've heard that there's a heroin epidemic across the country. Now you hear the presidential candidates talking about it. Whether it's heroin, cocaine's still out there, crack cocaine's still out there. And Chief and I could talk to you about, just what's going on with this marijuana. It's really a slippery slope. But they're out there, and where they are, where these drugs exist, who do you think is a major supplier of the drugs? Street gangs, almost all of it. So they're out there. And one of the problems we have is we're central between the two biggest narcotic areas in the nation, two of the biggest. Justice Department ranks at number one in this region because of Chicago and Milwaukee.
Mayor, recently the village board has taken steps and has implemented a few programs that we've discussed at our public safety committee, and then taken action on with the council, the opioid, the naloxone, and some of the other programs. Would you like to talk about what we're doing in the village to address some of the issues that the sheriff brought up?
Well, I think the Lake County Sheriff's probably carries the naloxone with them also. I know our officers do. And unfortunately, we've had to use it way too often. We've had way too many people in the community that have overdosed on heroin or opioid products. Luckily, our officers have gotten there this year alone. I think twice they've already saved lives, able to administer the naloxone very quickly to someone that's overdosing on heroin or something similar to heroin, and that actually brings them out of the toxic shock from the heroin. It's an amazing drug, and the more people that can get that into their hands, the better. In fact, it's going to become an over-the-counter drug if it hasn't already, so that people can buy it, and if they know they have a heroin addiction or they know a friend that has a heroin addiction, or sometimes your kids, you're afraid they might have a heroin addiction, you can actually keep that and use it in case something happens while you're around. But the biggest part is that our officers are carrying the naloxone to help with saving people. Because oftentimes the officers get there way before the rescue squad does. The officers are already on the street, they don't have to leave their station, so the odds are they're going to be there first. We've also rejoined the MEG unit over in Lake County, the Metropolitan Enforcement Group. They deal a lot with gangs and gang members, do a lot of investigations. And we're not talking, the guys that hang together in the street corner. We're talking the more serious gang members that really cause a problem, that also recruit the younger kids back into their fold. So we're hoping that to work with the Round the Beach's help, the Lake County MEG will also be able to be even stronger and continue on with that. I'm not sure if Sheriff wanted to say a few words on that at all.
No, I agree. It is all about partnership, and just with regards to the gangs, getting back to that, there's new software out there. Rigid is a software that was developed by Lake County, Indiana law enforcement, and it made its way into Cook County. Obviously, they've been the beneficiary of lots of federal money Cook County has, and so they were able to spend a lot more money in the development of that. And now we use it, Round Lake Beach uses it, and we keep better intel on these gang members. Being the, essentially the manager of a jail, it puts us in a really good position for intel on gangs. And we're finding that we have a gang task force meeting. Round Lake Beach is there for that meeting every month, where we share intel, where we have educational training as well. And we're just, it's all about intelligence, and you can help us by adding to, what who you see out there that may be doing something. And when we do that, trust me, there will be a demand for substances, what have you, but we can make a big inroad by drying up the supply. And a lot of it, I have 3 boys, and my middle son, it's his birthday today, actually, and he's had 2 broken wrists when he was younger. He's had 2 knee surgeries. He's 17 today, and he had a hairline fracture as well. And what we see with the heroin is that construction workers, athletes, what have you, that they started out with some type of an opioid prescribed substance, and it became too expensive, or the prescription ran out, but the pain was still there. So they gravitated towards heroin. And that's, really problematic. So those are important conversations to have with the young people. We're in the schools. We talk to the kids. Y'all are in the school, Round Lake School as well. And just getting the message out that, don't mess with that. Stay away, stay away, stay away. Because, I would say from a physiological perspective, we're learning that it's more addictive than crack cocaine. And people are dropping left and right. And as you mentioned, that naloxone, it saves lives, but the problem is, we've had naloxone saves. We've had cases where, they'll wind up going to Condell and try out for a little bit, and then they'll go right, and then the life will have been saved, and they'll go right out and use that substance that very same day. They'll leave the hospital without permission oftentimes. Well, they're an adult. It's not really permission, what have you. But they'll go right back to using it and drop dead the very next day. So, and we have people that we've had 3 or 4 life saves on. If your life was saved one time, shouldn't that be enough? But it's not, because of the physiological nature of just what a grabber that is as far as an addiction. So really important to have those conversations with young people. Heroin, it's out there. 53 yesterday. Heroin, when I was a kid, they had commercials on TV where they'd show a guy, skinny looking guy shooting up a needle, and it just didn't really look appealing, even if Even though rock and roll may have glorified it on some level, it just didn't, I didn't see it in schools, and I don't think most of us did, but now it's night and day.
And the sheriff mentioned the software they have available out there. The nice thing about that software is we can share the information between all the different departments. The gang members aren't only one community. They're mobile. They move from Round Lake Beach to North Chicago to Mundline, all across the county. And if we can have contact with that person and we enter them in our database, Mundline can see that if they have contact with that person, no, that's not the first time. They've been out there, they've been getting around, and it gives them a lot better handle on what's really happening rather than them, these kids saying, oh, yeah, sorry, I was hanging around the wrong guys. Well, no, you weren't, because this is the third time you've been out hanging with the wrong guys. So it's going to be a great benefit for all of us, and hopefully it'll help the kids. We can drag them back out of the gang before they get too involved in the gangs. Then it's really hard for them to get out later on.
Mayor, while you have the microphone, we've been talking about task forces and departments and municipalities and the sheriff's office working together. Can you talk about the value of the other task forces and the other groups that we work with to improve the services to the citizens?
Well, some of them are the larger ones, like NIPUS, where you have the call-outs if there's a serious crime someplace in the county, where we have a member that'll be called out, as most larger departments do have somebody. They have all the expertise, they have all the gear, everything else they need to get out there and respond to any severe threats of danger or violence. And thankfully, we haven't had any serious accidents or injuries through that. But these guys are prepared for it at least, and they know what they're walking into, and they can handle the situation much better than the average patrolman out there in the street that really hasn't been trained in some of these very serious situations, whether it be a hostage situation, which is probably the most common, where somebody has a hostage, and sometimes they're truly menacing and could definitely hurt the person. Other times they're just making big bluster and they're going to walk out of there fine later on. But you never know that until you actually get in the situation and find out more about it. And Chief, what other, blanking here?
Well, our MCAT and the number of departments and manpower that we're capable of bringing in, same with the Major Crimes Task Force, in order to, I hate to put a value or a cost to it, or but the amount of training that we're able to bring into our village within just minutes, if you will, by calling other departments.
Yeah, similar to the NIPUS call-outs, they have the Major Crimes Organization, which was deployed out in Fox Lake for the officer that ended up committing suicide out that way. And they brought a lot of expertise, a lot of talent with them. They're able to determine the issues. Unfortunately, a lot of testing and background information that they had to actually prove the situation took several months. But a single department would have a very difficult time ever achieving those kind of goals and getting through something like that without the expertise of so many other officers in the county that already know all of the information they need to bring with them. And where to find the information, what the contacts to make, that alone can be very vital. It takes years to build up that kind of resources. And they had it available to them, and they were able to take care of that. Sheriff, any comments on that?
I agree that it's got to be about partnership and what have you. We very much buy into that. Sometimes, people will point to a sheriff somewhere else, what have you, that's always telling the federal government to go to hell, and it's somehow that's fruitful and that I should be doing that. It's not. I could, I'll give you Milwaukee, for example. Their department is a third of what it once was in size. So it's not the best idea to be fighting with the county administrator when he's going to break your legs off. I want the FBI in my town. I want DEA in my town. I want ICE in my town for the bad criminals that they may be looking out at. I want all the help from a federal perspective that I can. We're living in an age where if a terrorist blew up a mall 2 miles from here right now, nobody should be surprised. So ultimately, it's about keeping us safe, okay? And we work together and we drop the egos, and then it gets done. And so I agree. Y'all have done a great job of that, Mayor and Chief Hare, and we try to do that as well. Everybody sits at the table. Okay, what's the priority? The priority is the citizens and the safety of our communities.
And Chief, maybe if you want to talk a little bit about the MCAT program, you're probably more familiar with that.
Sure, it's a more recent task force that we've joined. It's the Major Crash Assistance Team. At any time we have a major accident at one of our intersections and we have a serious injury or possibly a fatal crash, we're able to bring in anywhere from 5 to 20 to 25 well-trained officers, and they can reconstruct the crash and bring all the valuable evidence. They can take the information from the vehicle, they can read the computers, and they can reconstruct the scene so that the state's attorney can prosecute if necessary. But better than that, they can turn the information to the engineers if they need to make the intersection safer. And what's nice about this task force is that we have 40 officers at the village of Round Lake Beach. And if we would expect 20 of them to spend the time to reconstruct the scene, I would have to have a staff of probably 100 to 120 officers to do that. But because we collaborate with other local municipalities, we're able to bring staff in to reconstruct those scenes and to really do a good job and do a professional job that's expected now with the state's attorney's office. And then likewise, we go to other communities and work with them. So our officers might be down in Mundelein today, they could be in Fox Lake tomorrow, Gurnee next week, and then we draw from those resources. And we belong to NIPUS, we belong to the Major Crimes Task Force, we just joined MEG again, and we have the Major Crash Assistance Team. So through those agencies, and the same thing with Teen Court, this is another program that we belong to, that if we did this by ourselves, it would be very taxing on our resources and we would never be able to do it. But by working with NICASA, and they run the program, we collaborate. But it's just an example that, of what the board has done in Round Lake Beach to become more efficient and to better provide services by going out and sharing this with the other municipalities, because they have the same needs that we have, so we might as well share the cost and provide better services to the citizens. Technology is overtaking the industry, it's overtaking the planet. How is it helping your deputies become more efficient and effective in the field?
It is critical, Chief, and I know you're a big proponent of technology. It is, I mean, people tell you that you don't have to go back that far when there were no computers in the cars, and actually the 911 operators didn't even have a computer. They'd pick up a phone and then they'd write notes on a pad of paper, and then they'd call. The deputy was in the area and he'd go to a call. Night and day. I mean, it's just, the world is evolving so fast. Technology is moving so fast, and it's critical. I know Chief Hare is very active in Northwestern, and for all of us that are in this industry to stay on top of it, because there's a lot of tools out there at our disposal, number one. Number two, the bad guys. People would make this assumption that they're all brain dead, but they're not. They know technology, and I mean, look at the terrorists. I mean, they're using it, and they're oftentimes looking, what kind of advantage can I get? I mean, voice over internet. And then the throwaway phones, and then and there's all kinds of different tricks that they're up to, and we have new ways of discovering, still being able to trace that call back despite their best efforts. And so we're on top of it. As we mentioned, Rigid, that the Sheriff's Office is very much involved in Rigid, the software that came out of Cook County. Y'all are very much involved in that, and it's Intel. Connecting the dots. You're in this gang, you're connected to this guy, you're connected to this guy. You work your way up. We had a takedown a while back, street value of about 1.6 mil in cocaine, and 600,000 cash on hand. So I mean, there's big money in this business. And they're poisoning us and destroying our young people and everything else. So, there's a guy named Wald Gator Bradley, who was a Chicago gangbanger, and he came up to a forum up in Zion a while back and was trying to say there's First Amendment right, and there's nothing wrong with street gangs. It's only if they do something bad should there be. Well, there's no purpose in their existing other than to do something bad. They're there to basically pump poison into the community and protect their territory. You can't. So they're responsible for all the narcotics essentially. And if they're a gang member, it's absolutely a fact that they carry. So they have to protect their territory, they have to protect their stash, they have to protect their cash. So three strikes right there. They're a cancer on our society. They've declared war on y'all, and we can't be overly politically correct regarding what these people are. So.
Mayor, I guess we were talking about collaboration and technology, and could you talk a little bit about our relationship with CENTCOM and what CENTCOM is for the Round Lake community, and then our relationship through CENTCOM with Lake County's CAD system and their radio system?
CENTCOM is our central dispatch for our police and fire in the Round Lake area. That started out back in 1989. Is currently the largest dispatch system in Lake County. We have not only the Round Lake area as part of that right now, but Barrington joined us back, I think, in the early 2000s. And Antioch joined us a few years ago also. And so we have multi-jurisdictional partners in there now. They've grown considerably since they were first established over at the 911 building. The address is actually 911, so it makes it kind of cool. But we deal with this dispatch. For that, we also do the fire dispatch for their MABUS, their major box alarms, what they have throughout Lake County. So we're very well known for that also. The chief mentioned about the CAD system. That's the computer-aided dispatch that all the systems use nowadays. As the sheriff said a minute ago, they didn't used to have those. Everything was pencil, paper, write it down, pass it on, make a call over the radio. That's all they had. Nowadays, they can use these CAD systems. They plug the information right in the computer system. It shoots out to the fire department or the police department. They have everything they need right there in front of them. And the more information you have when you're going on a call, the better you're always going to be. You'll be more prepared. You'll know what you're walking into. You'll know the neighborhood you're going to. And so it's a tremendous asset. A lot of the fire departments are all in the same CAD system in Lake County, which makes it very nice. They can share the information, and when one fire department gets called out, they all know about it. So they know pretty instantly if there's going to be a major box alarm they need to be called out for. They can start preparing more quickly because we do share the CAD there. We're also looking at expanding CENTCOM. We've grown slowly but surely. The state of Illinois has passed some legislation last year, or the year before, I think it was last year, that was going to require a lot of facilities that are too small to sustain themselves to join another dispatch system. So we're looking forward to that in the future, growing. I serve on a committee for Lake County for looking at how to consolidate the dispatch. And they've come up with several different possibilities. Looks like it'll probably end up having 2 or 3 dispatch centers throughout the whole county. That'll be it. Right now, I believe there's 19 dispatch centers in Lake County. And with the way that telecommunications are nowadays, you could be halfway around the world in dispatch for Round Lake Beach. It doesn't really matter where you're located. Everything's in the computer system right in front of you. If a call comes in, it's all based on your phone number. If you're on a cell phone, it's based off the pinging the cell towers around you. So it's not like it was, again, 30 years ago, where that dispatch had to know the neighborhoods. They had to know where the roads were, what that officer needs to get to, and how quickly he can get there. And it's changed tremendously over that. And I'm looking forward to even better improvements. We right now have the medical dispatch, so if somebody's in a medical emergency, dispatchers are all trained to offer, first aid, life safety advice over the radio, which has been great. CENTCOM's also accepting text to 911. If you're in a situation where you can't talk, maybe there's an intruder in the house and you're in a closet, you can't speak because you're afraid you're going to alert the person, you can text in your situation to 911. I always recommend you call if possible, because the dispatcher can get such more information from you and your phone call than it can from a text coming in. But it's an option for those situations where you just can't make any sounds. So we're definitely been on the cutting edge of all the changes in the dispatch, and we expect to continue there.
Sheriff, we talked a little bit about body cameras and the upcoming technology. Would you care to speak a little bit about what the Sheriff's Office is doing in reference to body cameras?
Sure. There was a grant that was offered, and Senator Durbin was instrumental in this. And there were 3 recipients: the Sheriff's Office, Chicago Police Department, and Elgin Police Department. So we got hundreds of thousands of dollars for body camera grants. We already had them in the jail correctional officers. Now we're moving in the direction of getting them throughout all of our employees, what have you, all of our patrol officers. Now the problem with Springfield, from my perspective, is a couple things. One, they don't have a lot of police officers. I don't know that they have any. They had John Milner, that was the chief of Elmhurst for a long time, was a real sharp guy. He's gone. I don't know any, and Tim Bivens, who was a former sheriff, but other than that, they don't have anybody else that really has a law enforcement background, what have you. And they, with the body cameras, they've mandated all these, details regarding how it has to be stored and all this other. So absent all that money, there's no way we would have got it. And I think the bulk of the departments in Illinois, almost nobody else is going to get them for that very reason. So it's kind of silliness that they went down that road and that they felt that they needed to have a bill that should have been like this, that's actually about this big. So we're going in that direction. There's arguments for and arguments against. But in the jail, it's really critical, though, I think, that you can have false or spurious allegations like that. I mean, let's be honest about who's incarcerated. I mean, the reality is that most people that commit a crime are going to get recognizance bonds. Only the people that are committing the worst crimes and are the greatest flight risks, those are the ones that are being held typically. So, I mean, I run a jail. I'm trying to insulate myself from any liability. I want protection as to what they're going to claim, and the body cameras serve that interest.
Thank you. Mayor, I know you tasked us with looking into the body cameras, and the deputy chief has done a great study that we're getting ready to turn over to you, but would you care to speak on where we're going to go with body cameras?
Sure. When we first saw this legislation come through the State House, we were very concerned that it was so, nanny state-minded, where they told you this is how you can do this and this and this and this, step by step. And instead of letting the reality of the situation out in the communities really drive this force. So we're holding off a little bit. We want to see what exactly happens out there. One of the biggest problems with the body cameras is the storage of all the information you have and how long you have to hold on to it. And you're talking terabytes of data storage here, not just like little chips on your camera or something. You need severe storage. You have to be able to manipulate that data that's on there in order to release specific pieces of the information and not the whole piece of information, because you can't show certain faces and you can't show this, you can't show that. If a witness that you're talking to doesn't want to be recorded, you have to turn off your cameras. There's just so many different rules out there that before we jump into it with both feet, we want to make sure that we can do it properly, we can do it fairly, and we can do it legally. We don't want to put our department at greater risk because of it. But like the sheriff just says, those body cameras, whether it be inside of a jail or out in the street, they can definitely tell the truth a lot easier than oftentimes even witnesses on the side. They don't see everything that happens. They saw a little piece of it, and they don't see from the officer's perspective or what really happened. So I've seen several situations that I've checked into that the body cameras have either proven the officer right, or in some cases they've proven the officer wrong. Unfortunately, they do make mistakes too. So this is something we will be moving towards. We just want to make sure that technology is where it needs to be in order for us to do it right. And also the pricing is coming down day by day, so that's something else we're watching a little bit here too. We don't want to be one of the first ones onto it and have the technology be very expensive. If we wait a few months, as everyone's buying it, they ramp up the production and it drives down the cost, just like anything else. Same thing with vehicles. Ramp up production, and when you have to build them one by one, they were pretty expensive. Get the assembly line going, and it brought the price down considerably. So like I said, we will be there, but not quite yet.
Well, thank you. I did have one question, but the mayor answered it as far as collaborating with other municipalities. Do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to make?
Being a police officer or the sheriff's, it's one of the probably the most difficult jobs there is out there. A lot of things have been on the news recently about different officers and different events that happen around the country. have to remember we're a country of over 300 million people. You're going to have isolated events that do occur. Sometimes the officer is right, sometimes it's wrong. And when they're wrong, I hope that the appropriate positions are taken by the local officials and prosecutors in the same situation. At the same time, you also have to remember they're dealing with split-second decisions. When something happens, they have a half a second sometimes to make a decision and either draw their gun or not draw their gun. And I certainly won't want to be in that position because I don't think I can think that fast, as a lot of those officers do out there in the street. When somebody's pulling something out of their pocket, is it a weapon? Is it their watch? Is it a phone? You know, what are they actually pulling out of their pocket there? So please always follow officers' guidance when they stop you or they're in a situation. They don't know who you are most of the time. They don't know whether you're a good person or a bad person. So show them you're a good person and follow their guidance. That way there won't be any problems. And if you feel you've been unjustly detained or whatever, you can always take care of that later on. But don't do it during the traffic stop.
I would agree. I think spot on, Mayor.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody coming out. If you have questions or you'd like to talk to the mayor and the sheriff when we're done and we conclude in a few minutes, I know they'd love to talk, and I think the mayor has something for the sheriff. Please remember to come out next month when we'll have Lake County Recorder Mary Ellen Venderventer and Chief Deputy Recorder of Deeds for a fireside chat with the mayor.
Look forward to that in May. Just a little village pin we'd like to give all of our guests here at Round Lake Beach, and Sheriff, here's one I hope you wear proudly.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.